Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. My name is Ashley Van Ways, and I work for the Global Legal Empowerment Network. It is Thursday, April 5th, and today we are joined by Maya Reddy, who will be helping me to field questions, as well as advocacy experts Coco Lammers and Stacey Cram. Today, we will learn a little bit more about the Justice for All campaign. We're going to view a live demo of the brand new website, and you will have the opportunity to learn how you can get involved, share your ideas, and ask questions directly during our live Q&A discussion. Before we get too far into today's proceedings, I just have a few quick housekeeping notes. Please take note that this event is being recorded, and we will share the full recording and highlights later on our website. I also want to make sure you can hear well and are able to use our webinar system. Please look for a questions pane where you can type in your questions to communicate with us, and know that there's also a button for raising your hand to get our attention. Today we have registrants calling in from 39 different countries. I'd also like to introduce you to the Global Legal Empowerment Network, which is convening this webinar today. The network is a growing community of more than 1,400 organizations and 5,000 individuals from around the world who are working to advance justice. We do this in many ways. One of the many ways is through our online discussion forum, where we discuss problems and share ideas. We also learn from one another through webinars such as this one, and in face-to-face learning exchanges, leadership courses, and other events. Additionally, there is an online library which has more than 1,500 free legal empowerment resources. Last but not least is advocacy, which is what brings us all here today. So don't forget to join the network on our website at namity.org. Membership is free, and we'll be getting in touch with all of you after the webinar with a link to invite you to join. There will be time after the presentation to pose some questions to the presenters directly, so I encourage you to type into the questions pane to ask some questions. Time permitting, we can also give the floor to participants. So let us know if you'd like to be unmuted in the question or topic you'd like to talk about. Now I'm pleased to introduce Stacey Cram, who will be moderating this webinar. Stacey is the Director of Policy at Namity. Stacey, over to you.
Thanks, Ashley, and welcome and good morning from the West Coast to everyone. I know people are joining from 39 countries, so it's definitely not the morning where you guys are. Thank you all for showing interest in the new Justice for All campaign. Justice for All is striving to ensure equal access to justice for all by 2030 by advocating for funding and protections for grassroots justice defenders. Before I'm going to dive into my presentation, I just wanted to do a quick poll, which will pop up on your screens right now. And this is really to gauge people's experience with campaigning so that we know who we've got on the call. So the question here is, how familiar are you with advocacy and campaigning? So if you can just select one of your options, we'll give you a little minute to do that. I'll just let you know that when you registered for the webinar, we asked what you wanted to learn, and we've used a lot of that input to design to today's sessions. And although we won't be able to cover everything during the webinar, what you can expect to learn is the campaign basics. We'll get a live demo of our brand new campaign website. You're going to learn how you can get involved and share your own ideas. And, oh, so sorry to cut into my own speaking, but there's the live results from the poll. So we've got a good mix. We've got people who are somewhat familiar, some new people, so welcome to our new campaigners out there, and a few experts as well. So all of those who are experts, I hope you're going to help all of those newbies as we move forward together with this campaign. So I was saying you will also be able to share your ideas on this campaign and ask questions directly to us. And please note, this is just the first in what's going to be a series of webinars. Next month, we are going to be hearing more directly from members. There's going to be a lot of us talking today, but that is really going to be the only webinar like this. We're going to hear about national advocacy next month, and from the Open Government Partnership, who are really trying to spearhead national action in the coming months around access to justice. And there's, of course, going to be plenty of opportunities to continue all of the discussions today on the online discussion forum. I just have one more poll question for you before we move into the main presentation. And that is around the realities of what you are facing in your work today. So if you can look at this quick poll and just share your experience right now. The question for those joining by phone is, today in 2018, what are the justice realities you're currently facing in your work? And there's a lack of financing for grassroots justice is a challenge. Justice defenders in my community are at risk. The political climate is making my work difficult, and all of the above. And as you're filling that in, I'll let you know, we actually posed this question to members of the Global Legal Empowerment Network in 2016. And almost 2/3 of our community said that they were going to have to make cuts or may not be able to operate due to funding challenges. 2/3 of our community reported that carrying out their work is difficult, and half said that the political environment in their country had worsened in the last year. So really not a great landscape for those of us working on access to justice and legal empowerment. Just give us a few seconds to let those results come in. Okay, interesting. So for those of us today, not a million miles, financing is definitely still coming up as a priority. The political climate and all of the above, which is sadly the most popular option. So while the poll results are not all that surprising to me, having spoken to so many of you about the issues and challenges that you face, it's still disheartening. You know, it's been 10 years since the United Nations estimated that 4 billion people are living outside of the rule of law. And there have been some gains in the last decade, for sure, many of those driven by those of you on this call today. Also, you know, as a community, we've worked really hard to push forward our movement on access to justice. And in 2015, we successfully advocated for justice to be included in the new Sustainable Development Goals. But we're still far from a world that is fair or just. You know, yesterday was the anniversary of the day that Martin Luther King was assassinated. And he was an inspiration, I imagine, to all of us who are working on social justice. And I just, you know, I was listening to everything that was being said in the news yesterday and was a little disheartened by how little seems to have changed between the world then and the world now. And to put a spin on one of his most famous quotes is, "The arc of the moral universe does not just naturally curve towards justice. We must bend it. We cannot let another decade go by where we see such little progress. And we, the world's justice defenders and citizens, we must hold world leaders accountable to this promise that they made at the United Nations to ensure all people have equal access to justice." And that's why we're launching this campaign. We believe that only by funding and protecting grassroots justice defenders can we make justice, not injustice, the norm. And so I'm just going to play now a very quick video which will look at these themes in a little more detail.
All. Let there be peace for all. These words were famously spoken by Nelson Mandela. By fighting for his belief in justice for all, he became a global icon for freedom and peace. Around the world today, the scales of justice are tipped in favor of the wealthy and powerful. The protection of the law is out of reach for 4 billion people, more than half of the world. But there is hope. All countries have committed to provide equal access to justice for all by 2030. To reach this goal, we need governments to support, protect, and fund grassroots justice approaches so that the law works for everyone, everywhere, regardless of gender, religion, income, or age. We must all let governments know that we demand justice for all. Only then will they make decisions to fund and support actions that will tip the scales towards equal access to justice for all. Join sparks of hope from around the world who are continuing Mandela's long walk to freedom. Walk together for justice for all and support the growing movement.
Great. So hopefully that's given you all a little flavor of the themes around financing and protection, and that we are part of a bigger movement. The Justice for All campaign started being designed by the global legal empowerment community over a year ago, and we've worked with several of you on this call and many other partners to flesh out our vision of who we are and what it is that we want to achieve. So Justice for All will be driven by grassroots action. We as the Global Legal Empowerment team are here to support you with your campaigning by giving tools and resources and helping to coordinate efforts from around the world. While the theme of financing is central to what we are advocating for, I just want to make a note that this is not a campaign where we're a donor and are going to be giving out funds, but we are going to be looking to increase the overall pot of money available for legal empowerment and access to justice organizations around the world. We believe that when people are able to know, use, and shape the laws, that we have the power to create extraordinary change. The campaign is going to be made up of organizations, individuals, coalitions, and partnerships that reflect the diversity of activists fighting injustice all over the world. So we launched this campaign little over a month ago, and already we've seen lots of exciting activity and people joining. So far, 3 former world leaders and leaders of business like Richard Branson have written op-eds and started to beat the drum for our community. We're going to be getting lots more global champions as we move forward with our campaign. We've also had, sorry, you can just go back to the last slide, sorry. We've also had a new global task force on justice was launched alongside the launch of this campaign, and it's going to be focusing on some of the difficult questions and challenges that we're facing as a community to help with both the research agenda and getting high-level political support. The campaign's already brought in a number of partners. Namati is one partner, the Elders, the World Justice Project, ABA Roli, and ASIC, who have all officially signed on as supporters of this campaign, and many others from around the world are in the process of joining. And we hope many of you here today are going to be able to join this effort. What it is that we want to achieve is really going to be driven by those who join this campaign. This campaign is going to be driven by the actions of our supporters, and we're really excited to hear from you and let you lead us. The Justice for All campaign is a flexible brand, and we want to be able to run with ideas and inspire action, but we don't want to be overly prescriptive. We hope it can support existing efforts and catalyze new action, and we're here to work together to make those a reality. That said, we're not leaving everyone kind of out in the dark to come up with ideas, and we definitely want concrete actions taken in countries and global coordination that will propel the work of grassroots justice defenders and ultimately increase justice for all. So what could this look like? A couple of examples. In Kenya, 2 years ago, the government adopted its first legal aid law. It did this in line with its commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals, and this was a landmark moment. But it's almost 2 years later and the bill remains unfinanced. The line that was put in the law, which specifically guaranteed support for paralegals and grassroots justice defenders has not translated into action on the ground. So the Justice for All campaign could help mobilize and coordinate civil society already working on this issue to give them more support to call on their government to drive forward on this piece of legislation. Another example, the Open Government Partnership is a global partnership which brings together civil society and governments working to extend access to justice. This year, 72 countries and cities are going to be putting new national action plans together, which will extend open government in their country. We're hoping that half of these will make commitments around access to justice and that the Justice for All campaign can drive forward those reforms. At the global level, we see the G20 as a real opportunity. There's been some interest from them in taking up access to justice from their president, which is the government of Argentina right now. However, they need more pressure from those around the world to know that access to justice is a priority that they have to take seriously. And so we hope that this campaign can be that drumbeat which will call on them. You'll see on the slides right now, we did a big social media push last month when the ministers of finance were meeting at the G20. We need to move access to justice into these discussions by the highest level of those that control the money and politics. Sorry, apologies, it's 6 a.m. on the West Coast. In terms of how we see achievement being made, we think that a lot of tactics can be used, including mass mobilization, online activism, and high-level lobbying. There were some very interesting questions that came through when we were putting out this webinar, a lot to do with some concerns around online activism, and especially in the age of kind of political trolls and where social media and other tactics are being used against those working on these issues. And so we hear you on that, and we are very committed to using this in ways that feel authentic to this community. We've already hosted some social mobilization walks in Argentina, which was both promoting the local issue around access to justice in Argentina while tying it to a global campaign. And we hope that those can be replicated to support your efforts. We've also been doing online action, as I said, around the G20. And we'll be doing kind of high-level meetings with UN task force and other regional and national bodies. We hope that Justice for All will bring together new activists with those already doing the work to learn from and support each other. We hope that this becomes a platform for greater coordination among civil society and other actors working to extend access to justice, and that this community is really going to become the global movement for justice and legal empowerment, which in the decades ahead is going to achieve equal access to justice and tip the scales towards justice for all. This final slide is just showing some of the action that has already happened so far. In this picture, you can see that's Mary Robinson, the former Prime Minister of Ireland and Human Rights Commissioner, calling for equal access to justice. Ricardo Lagos has also written an op-ed in Spanish, and that is the G20 in that tweet, tentatively agreeing that Argentina will take on the message for justice for all. I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Coco, who's going to run through the campaign website and give us more information about some of the practical things that you can do today to show your support and get involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stacy and Ashley. Hi, everyone. I'm Coco. I'm the Campaigns and Advocacy Officer here at NAMITI and the Global Legal Empowerment Network. Stacy kindly shared some of the background on the Justice for All campaign, some of the exciting things that have already happened as part of the campaign, and some of the ways that you and your teams can get involved in the future. It is my sincere pleasure to now introduce you to the Justice for All online community. We have created an online campaign platform with the aim of linking grassroots to global campaigning activities to drive progress on the Justice for All commitments for the campaign. I'm now going to walk through a live demo of this new online campaign platform, some of its features, and ways that you and your communities can get directly involved in this online community. But I encourage you to spend some time exploring justiceforall2030.org on your own time after the conclusion of today's webinar. Introducing justiceforall2030.org. As you will see, we have a dynamic online platform, and we're really excited to get to show it to you and demonstrate some of its features today. I'm just going to quickly scroll through some of the ways that you can get involved, and then we can open the floor for questions towards the end of the webinar today. The real goal of this campaign is to be really action-oriented and to be flexible. And during the design stages, we realized that we really needed a website that could be catered to our global community and serve as a responsive and dynamic platform so that we can collectively drive forward the campaign goals through online activism. So the first thing that you'll see here is a pledge, and I encourage you all to, after this webinar, go online, sign up for the pledge to really, show your support for this, that it's really time to tip the scales towards justice for all. Going down, you can learn about the issues. There's going to be different quizzes that get featured to really help learn about what some of the statistics are today, and you can find out the answers to learn more. This is really a global campaign that is built on grassroots activity. And so one of the things that we've built into this website is that, because organizations around the world are going to be using the Justice for All campaign to really achieve remarkable things, there's going to be the opportunity to feature some of these things around the world. So we have some global activities here. Then there's also opportunities to see what's going on. For example, in Washington, D.C., where I'm based, you can see the webinars, some of the articles, any tools that are relevant going on in this city. I want to point you to the direction of, Buenos Aires, and you can look at some of the events that Stacy was talking about earlier, some of the videos from the events. And then also there's, I want to just talk to you about that we have a couple of campaign activities already coming up in Argentina, some events that our partner ASIC is putting on that are regionally focused around the campaign. And so, we can go and feature those and see what's happening in the country, in different cities, and also kind of at a regional level. And one of the exciting things here is this bottom button right here, where you can actually add your own campaign activity, which will allow you to submit an event that's going on in your local community that really links to the Justice for All mission, and we really hope to see more of this kind of activity and synergy in the future. Scrolling through, there's additional campaign updates, some of the most recent news, articles, events, petitions that have come up. We're featuring stories around the world, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second to really demonstrate what justice defenders are doing around the world and showcase their bravery and to really give a voice to their perspectives. You can join the discussion directly and actually connect with other practitioners that are engaging on the online platform with the Global Legal Empowerment Network on this campaign. Actually have a face-to-face conversation online, featuring our supporters, and then just sign up to stay informed, regular email updates, anything that we feel like is really important to share with you around the campaign. We promise we won't clutter your inbox too much, but we just want to make sure that, if there's relevant updates, that you get the latest and greatest news from the Justice for All campaign. All right, so take action. Campaigning is all around action. We have another declaration of support. So again, show your support, get your friends to sign up. The bigger the movement, the more that we can really demonstrate to governments and world leaders that we are a coalition and we all want to drive change to make this campaign a reality and kind of the goals of this campaign a reality. So what can you do? It's really exciting with this website because there's actually 6 individual ways that you can really get involved in the campaign, and I'm just going to walk you through a little bit. So if I go into Take Part section, I can learn about what's going on around the world, different events that are going on, and how to get involved. You'll see this event that's taking place in Cordoba, Argentina in 2 weeks. That's already being featured on the website. So take part, see what's going on. There's going to be events that are online, some might be in person, but encourage you to kind of see how you can actually take part in person in some of these opportunities. If you want to discuss and join the conversation, you can go directly to the Global Legal Empowerment Network and actually have a conversation with people about this campaign, ask questions, really facilitate kind of a cross-collaborative dialogue around these issues. This tell button is one of these things that I want to spend a little bit of time on, because one of the things that we're really driving forward through this campaign is protection for justice defenders. And one of the ways that we can do that is actually by featuring the story in a really safe way. So if you feel compelled to tell your justice defender story or have a story about a justice defender that inspires you, I encourage you to share your story, and we will make sure that we kind of go through and see if there's a way that we can feature it on the website to really help amplify the work that you're doing on the ground, to really make a perspective. So the form is built in, and we look forward to hearing and seeing some of these stories really come through. Learn. There are so many different things to learn about campaigning. So if you click on the Learn section, you'll be able to check out articles that are coming up, that really are on these global issues, or even national and regional issues around justice for all. Any of the events that are coming up, there's some compelling video and audio, some podcasts and, TED Talks and things to really learn about these issues and to kind of feel comfortable speaking on behalf of these issues and really being an advocate and an activist in as best way possible. Here's also a way that you can actually see some of the stories that kind of have come up and of justice defenders that we are featuring. So No Beniso was a guiding light for this movement, and we were fortunate that we were able to honor her story in memoria. There's other things like petitions. So, if there's a petition that's coming up, this is a regional petition. If you're based in Latin America, I invite you to go sign up. Sign this petition to really make this Declaration de Villa Inflamable a reality on justice for all. There's also ways to see the impact of the campaign, any news, and things like that. So that is really like a dynamic way to keep kind of learning about what's going on through this website. Share. We see this online community only as strong as the sum of its parts. And so one of the things that we really encourage you to go through and help us with is to go through and follow us on the Facebook page at Justice for All 2030, Twitter at Justice_2030, and to use the hashtag Justice for All and/or the hashtag Tip the Scales whenever you feel like there's something relevant that you really want to activate the cause on through an online platform. I'll give you an example. Stacy was just mentioning the activity around the G20. We were able to actually directly reach 500 influencers around the G20 Ministers of Finance meeting, and that is just, a small little piece of what we could actually achieve through social media impact in this kind of digital age, where we'd love to see things kind of go viral and things like that. The other thing that's really great that you can do actually here is we actually have social media images and tools that you can actually directly download and tweet and Facebook directly from your computer. So there's all these ones already up. We'll keep updating these as they go along. So, say you want to take this image, it's time to tip the scales for justice for all, join us, share it, download it, use it this is content that we want to be able to share with everyone. So we invite you to see these shareable images as, shareable for all of you, and we hope that you'll kind of utilize these features as well. And contribute. So, if you feel inspired to make a financial contribution or want to pledge your financial support, there's actually a way to get in touch with us about making a donation, or if you have any questions around kind of how to fund this movement or anything related to this, feel free to click on the contribute section. The one thing I also want to just to point you to is our supporters. We have already a number of supporters that are on board. This campaign is powered by the Global Legal Empowerment Network, but we, again, we are just really supported by our partners. So we have already a number of partners and supporters that are on board. We're calling you supporter because kind of we're all helping to kind of take on this issue together in whatever way you can. And actually, if you'd like to become a supporter, you can just click on one of these buttons here or here, fill out a form, submit your logo, tell us a little bit about your organization, and kind of we'll have a conversation with you about what becoming a supporter would really look like. And we really hope that this page will keep growing and growing and growing as the campaign goes on. So again, if you're just wanting to learn, you can go directly to the Learn page, get all of the resources here that you want to share them. You can actually share them directly through this page as well. So just kind of want to point you back towards that feature. And then here I want to just point you to the tools section. So campaigning, there's different ways to think about campaigning. And the other thing that we really want to help inspire through this campaign and through this online platform is how to learn about campaigning and digital activism and online activism and also in-person activism. So come back here to see about different toolkits on advocacy, campaigning, how to get involved, how to engage in social media. We'll kind of keep updating these things, and even having tools specifically for justice defenders. Kind of, for example, this is a guide to personal security for human rights defenders. So things like that. Just keep coming back, and we'll kind of keep updating the tools as we can and as things become available. And alternatively, if you have tools that you want to share with us that you think would be really helpful on campaigning, advocacy, the SDGs, financing, protection, justice defenders, all of those things, any of the above or even more, feel free to share those with us, and we'll see if we can get these on this online community as well. We even have some tools right now around kind of how to keep your communication safe online wherever campaigning takes you. So we're really trying to make sure that we have tools that can help everyone who's involved in this be as successful, as safe, and productive as possible during this campaign. The last thing that I really want to take you to is, if you scroll all the way down to any of the pages, if there is a situation where there is something happening in your community or to someone we have the opportunity to actually report a violation against a justice defender. And this tool is actually going to be used to help the Justice for All campaign track, monitor, and report violations against justice defenders and aggregate this information for campaigning and advocacy purposes. So, this is an online form, so, we use kind of the latest and greatest in terms of security features. So know that you can kind of feel safe submitting this information. If you want to share it publicly, you can. If you don't, that's also fine. But, the more that we all know as a community about what's actually happening on the ground with justice defenders, the more that we can work to help really protect justice defenders in the future. And with that, I will just say that, there's lots of different ways to share your story, share your event, learn more. Really invite you to utilize these tools in this online community. Check out, our Facebook page, our Twitter page, and help us spread the word. And I will just go back to, the front page and just hope that, in this banner, ideally we see all of you, everyone kind of taking part in this and feeling like there's some way that you have a role to play, not just in this campaign, but also through this online community. So with that, I will turn it back over to Stacy. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the website.
Great. Thank you, Coco, and I hope you have all enjoyed seeing some of the tools and resources that are there. And we're always going to be on hand to talk through ways that we can turn a lot of your ideas into concrete action so that we're seeing real reform for justice for all. I'm just going to check with my colleague Ashley if you are going to come on to do the Q&A or if you would like me to lead on the questions.
Sure, I can field the questions. It looks like we have a couple that are coming in. The first is from Sila S, and she asks, how can we best secure security for grassroots volunteers?
Sure, I can take that. As we've seen, this has become a real issue which is sadly growing for our community of those working on access to justice and legal empowerment. We are trying to learn a lot right now from, and we have been learning from the human rights community and also from the environmental justice defenders community, who have increasingly come under attack over the last years as well. We're putting together resources on which look at very kind of practical step of how you can build it into your programming, what Namati has learned from its own staff on how to protect its staff and volunteers, and that will be shared when it's ready on the website. We would also encourage you, as Coco showed, to report these violations so that we're able to document that this is happening. While we might not be able to take up individual cases, it's not going to be the role of the campaign. We can put you in the direction of those who will be able to. And we also can spotlight attention globally and in your country on this issue. I think a lot of what has been done very well by the environmental community in the last 12 months has been documenting all of these violations so that there's no hiding from it. There's no like, oh, this didn't happen, it wasn't us, which governments and corporations have done in the past when they are, committing these violations. And so we're committed to ending this culture of impunity and getting global champions and individuals around the world to care about these issues and know that those who are supporting communities in some of the most difficult situations are under threat and under attack themselves. And whether those are physical intimidations, political harassment, financial litigations that are coming against individuals, we know that these are all happening, and we need a greater understanding from you on, what the current situation is so that we can help you. So, like I said, there's going to be much more to come in terms of very practical steps that you can do in your programming. But we need to also know, I don't want to give generic advice out here because it will be very tailored to the situation that people are in and on the thematic area and on the laws and countries that they work in. I will say, having spoken to a lot of human rights organizations over the last 12 months, what is wonderful to hear is that legal empowerment approaches actually provide much more safeguards against attacks and on individuals doing this work, because they do have the power of the law on their side. And so while it's dangerous and difficult for those, we are working in some of the most productive ways that we can working against injustices in the world.
Thanks so much, Stacey. The next question comes from Cynthia. She said, are there times when defenders have an opportunity to talk and learn from each other?
Coco, do you want to take this? That's like the best conversation. That's the best question I could ask.
Thanks so much, and thank you so much, Cynthia, for that question. I think that this is a great question and really important. So I would say that there's a couple of different things. So one is that, as this campaign evolves, we are going to keep looking for opportunities to bring conversations together, to bring moments together where communities can actually have discussions, learn from each other, best practices and the like. Ideally, that would also include a way for justice defenders to really share their experiences and kind of learn from each other about best practices. You know, I was recently talking to a justice defender, you know, who's based in Brazil, and they were saying that they've been really, really able to do a lot of work on the ground by using WhatsApp and things like that to kind of make sure that their communications were safe. And I know that, for example, in Kenya, WhatsApp was actually used to kind of help push forward this legislation that Stacey was talking about earlier that's underway. So alongside that, I would also see this online community as a way to kind of really see that as a space to have a discussion. So if you click on the tell section, you can really kind of share your story about what's going on, which can, you know, we can try to feature as a way also if there's learnings that you've had to kind of feature to the other community. The other one is to discuss. So join kind of the discussion on the Global Legal Empowerment Network on the campaign. That is going to be the place where practitioners actually working in this space who are justice defenders can actually discuss and learn from one another. And you can actually see the different communities and practitioners that are working in different countries. So say that you're in Nigeria and you want to connect with other folks in Nigeria, you can actually do that through the member profile as well. So that's a really great way to actually have conversations online through this online platform. And then I invite you to kind of think about, you know, are there tools and resources that can be shared through this online platform as well that could really help justice defenders? And maybe they're in a different place, but there's likely some learnings that could really help someone in another place as well. And so, you know, being able to feature that, you know, we're also open to featuring specific blogs on learnings and things like that. So definitely see this platform as a way to do that. And then I also kind of invite you to think about social media around key moments. There's a lot of key moments that are going on. See what policymakers and the like are talking about. See if there's moments where justice defenders can really be brought into those discussions and kind of, you know, amplify this message and kind of tweet directly at your, you know, local policymakers or other kind of practitioners in the field or even other justice defenders and kind of try to get their perspective. And so that sort of, I hope, answers some of your question. I think that more and more will come along the way. And, you know, I'm excited to kind of keep sharing additional opportunities to connect, especially for justice defenders, since that is such a huge part of this campaign, and we want to do everything that we can to kind of promote conversation and to really kind of facilitate learning and to also bring opportunities to kind of bring these practitioners to the forefront.
And just to add, sorry, I'll just add one. I mentioned at the beginning, but we're going to be, you know, this is just the first in what will be a series of webinars where we'll be looking to bring together different practitioners from around the world to learn from each other. You know, we see our role as coordinating and facilitating a lot of the work that's been done. So we'll be doing that as well.
Great, thank you so much. In a follow-up to that, to communicating with each other, we actually received a question via our discussion forum, which came from Divine. She says, a question that always comes to mind, what are the strategies developed by the movement so that local organizations that may not have access to the internet and funding have easy access to the campaign and also funding for access to justice?
I'm happy to take that. That's a great question. As I said, just you know, being fully transparent, you know, we are not going to be funding specific actions as a donor, but this campaign is really going to be rallying at donors and at local governments, national governments to increase the entire pot of funding available for this community. And those, you know, we see grassroots organizations at the very forefront of all of this work. And so funding for independent grassroots legal work is at the forefront of this campaign. So please know that. In terms of offline, we have made a lot of downloadable resources. I know that those are online, but our hope is that they can be downloaded by organizations who do have access to the internet that can then be shared offline we're looking at creating, there's some in there, but creating more resources which are visual aids so that it can help with issues around literacy, so that you can engage members of your communities in ways that are culturally relevant and easy for them to understand and access. We'll also be doing calls. We are working, as we move forward in this campaign, with leads in our region, lead organizations. So right now we have we're calling them anchor members of the Legal Empowerment Network in different regions, who will be leading a lot of the regionally relevant work, and that could include calls that you can dial into for information rather than having to get online. And then we are going to be producing a lot of guides around, campaigning tactics. So how would you organize a walk, and who would you target in local government, and what would be the purpose of that, and how do you empower those who are taking part in your campaigning? Again, unfortunately, given the global aspect of our work, the best way to share that with you guys is going to be online. But we hope by producing certain tools and resources that can be downloaded and then used in your efforts will really support what you're doing. We are always open to hearing new ideas. So if that sounds terrible to you and you're like, I need stuff, WhatsApp to me, for example, so that I can work directly with the community, let us know. We're here to listen and learn and respond to your needs. So please, do email us, do talk more on the discussion platform. It's a very low bandwidth discussion platform, and you can email directly to it as well. So hopefully that will help overcome some of those issues.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stacey. Our next question comes from Lorenzo Wakefield. Hi, Lorenzo. Could you please remind me again of the next steps that you plan to take around the G20 Ministers of Finance and campaigning for sustainable financial support for grassroots justice services?
I can. Thank you very much. So this year, just to give a little context to those who are maybe not as up to date on what the G20 is this year, Argentina is the president, and it's the first time that a Latin American country has been the president of the G20. So it's very exciting for that reason. And Argentina has been a big global player on the access to justice agenda, both through the SDGs and in their own national reform context. So they're a real advocate for access to justice, or have been, and we see this as a real opportunity. The Ministers of Finance, in terms of key actions, they're going to be meeting 4 more times throughout the course of 2018. And there's a number of direct ways that we want to target them. Some of it will be online. As Coco said, we reached out to 500 influencers and reached, tens of thousands of people through this online effort. And we really want to build on that for the coming meetings. We've actually seen that pressure online can have huge impacts. Learning from what other campaigning communities have been able to achieve, for example, on inequality and on climate. So we're going to be continuing to push hard on that, and we can give specific actions around days of action in the lead up to those meetings. We would also encourage those of you who are in countries that are members of the G20 to reach directly out to those in your government, for example, your Ministers of Finance, or you could send it to your local politicians to really take up this issue. For example, in Argentina, we've been working with the Minister of Justice to lobby the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Foreign Affairs to put this onto the agenda. And then I mentioned briefly this new Global Justice Task Force. It's made up of key countries and civil society organizations around the world looking to advance access to justice. And they are putting together very technical papers around what does this look like in terms of how much of a financing gap is there, and how do you fill that very practically, building on research that's been done by the OECD and by many grassroots organizations around financing access to justice. And they will be using those very technical tools and research, and we will be sharing that with all of you so that you can also use that in your lobbying and advocacy efforts. Our hope is that we will get a high-level discussion in this year so that a working group can be set up that will take forward access to justice as a stream of the G20 in the years to come. So this isn't just going to be a kind of one-time win, but creating a real structure that will move forward the discussions around financing on access to justice and protections for justice defenders in the years to come. One thing which I didn't get to in the presentation is that 2019 is the year that Goal 16 is going to be reviewed by the global community. And so it's a real opportunity next year to demonstrate what has, or in many cases, what has not been done yet around the issue of access to justice, and call out and call on governments to do more. And we really hope and see the G20 as one political target to elevate this issue. You'll be able to find more information on kind of direct steps and actions on the website, or if you have specific questions, do follow up with me or on the platform.
Great. One more question. How can small organizations best contribute?
Hi, it's Coco. I can take that one. Thanks so much for whoever asked that question. As Stacey mentioned earlier, this campaign is a network-directed campaign, which means that we would love for anyone and everyone to be able to use it. Use the messaging, use the branding, and all of that. So I just want to at least speak to the online digital platform and what some of the ways are that you can get involved. Likely, if you're a small organization, there's already a lot that you're doing. We don't want to add extra things. But if there's things that you're already undertaking or already working on that you'd like to share through this campaign, and that this campaign can help support you to really amplify your work and amplify your message, that is great. So feel free to kind of submit an idea for an event or a blog post or a resource that we can then feature on the website. Alternatively, I invite small organizations in particular to connect online, if the bandwidth permits. So join the online discussion platform, have conversations with others in your community, and there might be moments actually that are happening at kind of the national or subnational level that your organization might be able to tap into kind of as part of this. And then the last thing that I also want to just mention is that, which I'm not sure if I got to talk about when we went through the website, but in addition to having tools and resources about campaigning, we also have branding guidelines and resources available about this Justice for All campaign. So if you think that it would be helpful to use the Justice for All message and logo and images and some of the branding for your work, you are invited to do so. And if you want to connect with us about what that might look like, we're always happy to listen and have a conversation about it. But those resources are actually going to be readily available for you right on the website. So you can just download them and use them as you see fit. We hope that you'll let us know if you use them, just so we can kind of also make sure that we are featuring all the wonderful work that's happening, especially by our small organizations. I hope that helps answer your question.
Okay, that is all that we have for you today. So this brings us to the end of the formal part of our webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the excellent questions and points raised. And thank you to Maya for fielding questions for us. And last but not least, a huge thank you to our amazing presenters, Coco and Stacey. The website looks really amazing, and I'm so excited to explore justiceforall2030.org. This is a final reminder, or an additional reminder, I should say, to become a member of the Global Legal Empowerment Network and keep up to date on the campaign and all things legal empowerment. We'll be in touch with an email after this presentation with a link to today's recording and a reminder invitation to join the network. So let's keep this conversation going. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Sign the pledge, join the movement. We will achieve great things together.
Thank you all. We hope you'll join us.